In the intense exploration of the American West, many explorers, trappers, miners, and pioneers opened the West for expansion. In their zeal to build a new land, they often perceived its wonders as natural barriers or as abundant natural resources. As the western half of the United States began developing, many far-sighted individuals, such as Scottish-born John Muir and President Teddy Roosevelt, recognized the need to preserve America's last refuges of wilderness. In part 2 of our series, we'll explore some of America's spectacular western parks. In the southwestern corner of the country is a collection of national parks unique in all the world. 2 of these parks are in southern Utah. Zion National Park, a canyon oasis in the desert, and Arches National Park, with more than 600 arches. In the southeastern corner of New Mexico, Carlsbad Caverns National Park, and its dazzling display of stalactites and stalagmites. And the best known of these parks, Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona. Nothing prepares the visitor for a first encounter with the gaping chasm called the Grand Canyon. One of the 7 natural wonders of the world, the canyon's statistics only begin to tell the story. Over a mile deep in places, between 1 mile and 14 miles in width, and 277 miles long. The Grand Canyon is nature's spectacular lesson in geology. Each year, millions stand in awe on the canyon rim. Most visit the South Rim with its scenic drive and panoramic viewpoints. Across the canyon, the North Rim is higher and less frequented, but equally startling. Far below the rim, the Colorado River cuts deep into the rock. Hikers find the Bright Angel Trail a challenge as it descends 9.5 trail miles to the river, an elevation change of 4,400 feet. For most hikers, the arduous trek requires 2 days for the round trip. Because of extremes of elevation, the rim can be cool, while in contrast, the inner canyon extremely hot. Mule rides into the canyon are popular with many visitors. Hiking or riding, the visitor can appreciate the variety of ecological zones in the canyon. It would take walking from Canada to Mexico to equal the diversity of climatic zones found in this magnificent canyon. Riding a mule on developed trails is very distant from the danger and excitement that faced John Wesley Powell, a one-armed Civil War veteran, when he led an expedition down the unexplored Colorado River in 4 boats in 1869. Perhaps the most comfortable way to travel deep in the canyon is to float down the Colorado. The quiet serenity of floating the calm stretches of the Colorado between the magnificent cliffs contrasts with the sheer adrenaline rush of hitting grade 10 white water. For over 5 million years, the river has cut deeply into the layers of ancient rock, the oldest dating back 1.7 billion years. These layers give a visual picture of nearly half of the Earth's geological history. On a high, dry plateau, the trickling of water has carved out Carlsbad Caverns in the limestone. An early cowboy guano miner, Jim White, is credited with initially exploring them. He led early National Geographic expeditions that revealed the beauty of the caverns to the world. The first visitors descended in a guano bucket. Today, modern elevators carry visitors 750 feet down into the Big Room. These caverns are very large. The full size of them is yet to be determined, but so far, over 20 miles have been discovered. Only 3 of these miles are open to visitors. In Carlsbad, the Big Room could contain 14 football fields, and the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. could sit in one corner. The rooms are a constant 56 degrees and are unaffected by the outside temperature. The stalagmites growing from the floor up and the stalactites grown from the ceiling down were created after countless years by the slow drip after drip of water carrying dissolved calcium carbonate. The water evaporates, leaving the mineral deposits. One estimate indicates that it requires 750 years to add 1 inch. The chambers are most impressive when they're silent, with only the sound of dripping water. Zion has been described as an outdoor cathedral without a roof. When early Mormons first viewed these towering walls of rock, they named them Zion, after the Holy Land. That inspiration is embodied in the names given to many of the rock formations in the park: West Temple, the Great White Throne, Angel's Landing, and the Court of the Patriarchs. That same reverence is invoked in visitors today as well. No matter how you approach Zion, it appears as a vast tabletop plateau crisscrossed by canyons, unbelievably deep canyons with towering cathedrals of stone that seem to glow in the evening sun. This rare, immense beauty was sculpted by the gentle hand of water, silently freezing, slowly thawing, softly dripping, and quietly running, grain by grain, bit by bit, carrying away the softer rock and exposing the parts that have not yet been eroded away. Rocks that represent 35 million years of cataclysmic changes in the Earth's surface. This great chasm is the victim of this gentle river. For 13 million years, the Virgin River has been patiently exposing layer after layer of time captured in rock. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the narrows of the Virgin River. Deeper than most skyscrapers are high, and not much more than a sidewalk width in places, it too is the work of the Virgin River which runs its length. To view this deep cleft, you must wade the river. To get a view from Angel's Landing, you must hike a narrow ridge with only balance and an iron ring handrail for courage. At the top, an eagle's eye view of the Zion Canyon. It's a short walk to Weeping Rock. Here, water seeps through the porous rock and rains down in spectacular watery tears. But much of the Zion Valley and the upland areas is a driving adventure. Teasing peaks at the rock formations from windows in a tunnel blasted from the solid rock. Intriguing checkerboard mesa, ancient sand dunes crisscrossed by the effects of wind-blown sand and the expansion and contraction of the rock. In the fascinating western part of the park, erosion has also been at work, forming the Finger Canyons of Kolob. Hiking from here, deeper into the wilderness, one of the world's largest arches, spanning an impressive 310 feet, Kolob Arch, a magnificent symbol of the beauty and diversity of this park. Southeastern Utah is home to the greatest density of arches in the world. Near the serene beauty of the La Salle Mountains are arches of every size, shape, and dimension. More than 600 have been identified. Water is the silent sculptor of some of nature's most elegant creations. Several 100 million years ago, arches started as a 1,000-foot thick layer of salt laid down in an ancient seabed. Thousands of feet of rock were deposited on top of the salt. Under such pressure, it flowed much like an underground glacier and eventually was forced upward, causing great cracks in the sandstone layer. Millions of years later, erosion exposed the sandstone, and the cracks became what are called fins, the beginning of an arch. Arches take shape much like living things: birth, development, and eventually death. Winter snows, groundwater, and rains combine to dissolve the natural cement that holds the sand grains together in the fin. As the forces of erosion cut through the fins, arches are born. In time, the forces that created an arch will destroy it. Evidence of the life passages of arches are visible in the park. Water is also the architect of other rock forms in the park: hoodoos, pinnacles, buttes, and windows, shapes formed by the unique combination of 300-million-year-old geological forces and the constant effects of erosion. Colorful names confirm the variety of shapes in the park: Parade of the Elephants, Devil's Garden, Garden of Eden, and Upper Fiery Furnace. Much of the park is easily seen from the road. The window section features a host of dramatic arches. Turret Arch, the north window, and the south window, and perhaps the most unusual arch in the park, Double Arch, where two massive arches join in soaring wedlock. The relatively open terrain encourages walking, and for the more adventurous, rewards await. A moderately strenuous walk along a 1.5-mile trail reveals Delicate Arch. This graceful monolith frames a classic view of the Colorado Plateau. Spanning 306 feet and 89 feet high, Landscape Arch is a mere 6 feet thick at its narrowest. It's one of the world's longest natural arches. But someday, it too will succumb, victim of the evolving landscape of Arches National Park. Tucked away in the northwestern section of the United States are some of America's most stunning national parks. The world's tallest trees soar into California's coastal fog in Redwoods National Park. And also in California, Yosemite National Park, with its famous glacially carved valley in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Southern Oregon hosts the deep blue waters of Crater Lake National Park. In central Washington's snow-capped mountains, Mount Rainier National Park. And along the rugged Washington coast, Olympic National Park, a multifaceted wilderness. With its many peaks which jut up from the forest to snow-capped summits, the North Cascades National Park in northern Washington has been called the American Alps. Mount Shuckskin is a towering glacial-clad peak near the Canadian border. Seen from the slopes of Mount Baker, it dominates the eastern horizon, hanging over the sea of mountains that is the North Cascades. This rugged topography is a result of massive glaciers that carved out a complex of peaks. They're not high, many are only 7,000 or 8,000 feet in elevation, but their steep-sided walls dropping into deep valleys give the impression of great height. The 300 glaciers in the park are sustained by the moisture-carrying clouds of the Pacific. As they cross the mountains, they drop tremendous amounts of snow during the winter months. The east side of the mountains lie in a rain shadow, and the land is much more open and dry. From lush forests and snow-capped peaks to sunny meadows and bare-rocked peaks, this is a park of contrasts. Some of the best views of the park come from the North Cascades Highway, which leads through the large recreation area administered by the Park Service. Ross Lake is part of that recreational area. On the lake, boaters and canoe paddlers travel deep into the heart of the wilderness. One of the features of this park is its inaccessibility. This is a wild land with few roads. For experienced backcountry travelers, it offers a scenic world of peaks, meadows, glaciers, and wildlife, as well as an occasional berry. A backpacking trip of a couple of days or a few weeks carries the traveler into a primitive area that's little changed by the hand of man, a place of solitude. The mammoth peak of Mount Rainier towers 14,411 feet over Mount Rainier National Park. For the residents of Seattle and other Puget Sound communities, it's simply the mountain, dominating their skyline on a clear day. It can be seen from over 100 miles away. An approach by air gives a feeling for the immense size of the mountain, which is quite young in geologic terms. During the last major glacial age, just 10,000 years ago, the movement of ice was far below the present park boundaries. No less than 25 named glaciers surround the summit, an expanse of ice covering 35 square miles. This silent land is punctuated by the creaking of ice as it slowly inches down the mountainside. During winter, the heavy precipitation at Paradise leaves a snowpack of 30 feet that renews the glaciers each year. The flowing rivers of ice carry rocks and debris that they deposit on the lower slopes. At Paradise, an entire season unfolds in its alpine meadows. The alpine meadows of Sunrise on the northeastern flank of the mountain offer tremendous views of Mount Rainier. The profusion of wildflowers attracts visitors who enjoy the antics of the marmots, one of the most visible of the animals in the park. In spite of the snow, the chill, and the cold, this is a volcano. Dormant now, only occasional wisps of steam from the vents on the summit remind us of its fiery past. An alpine wilderness, deep forested valleys, and a wild coastline, the Olympic National Park is really 3 parks in one. The Olympic Peninsula is an isolated part of the United States, with only very winding 2-lane roads connecting it to the rest of Washington. This isolation has served to preserve the environment, although the park is increasing in popularity. The Pacific Ocean dominates the environment, either through the waves crashing onto the beaches or the storms that it throws against the land. The 50 miles of coastline within the park are perhaps the wildest and least developed of the coastlands in the United States. Hikers travel the beach between the sea and the forest, climbing over steep headlands or skirting them at high tide. Winter storms leave driftwood skeletons of great trees that are used by backpackers as windbreaks. Shelter is important because cloudy skies and damp cold are normal for much of the year. When the Pacific storm clouds sweep up against the western slopes of the Olympic Mountains, it creates the wettest place in the continental United States. As much as 200 inches can fall in a single year. In the Hoh, Quinault, and other river valleys is one of the world's few temperate rainforests. The plants that live here are water-loving plants that seem to grow to gigantic proportions. The Olympics have the world's largest Douglas firs, western red cedar, and western hemlock. The light is soft, for the trees are thick and covered in air-loving moss and lichens. The fern forest areas have been compared to cathedrals. The area was originally set aside as an elk refuge, and the Roosevelt elk keep the undergrowth from completely clogging the forest. This is the largest unmanaged elk herd in the United States. The most accessible alpine area in the Olympic Park is Hurricane Ridge, where a road from Port Angeles ends at the visitor center. This wide-open panorama is enhanced by the Park Service naturalists that provide an explanation of the creation of these mountains. The monarch of this wet range, Mount Olympus, is slightly hidden by other snowy peaks. Along the 600 miles of hiking trails, visitors glimpse tranquil meadows, which are covered in wildflowers in the early summer, and breathtaking vistas. Sitting atop the Cascade Range is one of the deepest and most beautiful lakes in the world, Crater Lake. It's not actually a crater, but a huge caldera which was created by the collapse of Mount Mazama. In geologic time, it happened very recently. Just under 7,000 years ago, the Indians of the area witnessed the creation of the lake. The events were included in their legends, and modern scientists have confirmed the stories that have entered their folklore. Over a period of 500,000 years, Mount Mazama grew through a series of massive eruptions to 12,000 feet. Then, in a climactic eruption that was 40 times greater than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption, it scattered ash over 350,000 square miles. The emptied volcano could not support itself. It collapsed. In its place, an immense depression some 6 miles across and 4,000 feet deep. Slowly, water filled the caldera to its present depth of 1,932 feet. Part of the uniqueness of Crater Lake is its altitude. The surface of the lake is 6,176 feet above sea level. For a close-up look at the lake, the boat tour. For 2 hours, the boat circles the inside of the crater. It'll stop once at Wizard Island. The island is a cinder cone, which was formed during lingering volcanic activity after the collapse. This lake is very clean. With few impurities, sunlight can travel deep into the water. First, the reds, yellows, and other colors of the spectrum are absorbed, and then only the deepest blue is left to be scattered back to the surface. No picture or video does justice to the blue color of Crater Lake. The forests reach right to the water's edge, but it's the groves of trees found inland which makes this area so special. These are old trees. Some began to grow more than 2,000 years ago. They thrive in the coastal fog belt. Some soar higher than the Statue of Liberty. They are the tallest trees on Earth. As they grow, the lower branches drop off, leaving the massive trunk unadorned until it reaches the canopy hundreds of feet above, forming a natural cathedral. Driving down Highway 101, the motorist travels through a quilt of national and state park lands. A number of excellent state parks protected outstanding groves before the national park was created in 1968. Occasionally, The most common big mammal in the park is seen, the Roosevelt elk. In 1978, the park, after much political controversy, was expanded to include an area in the south to protect the tallest trees in the world. No road accesses these trees, so visitors must take a Park Service shuttle, then walk almost 1.5 miles to the bend in Redwood Creek where the trees stand. Walking up to the base of the tallest tree gives some indication of its greatness. It towers over 367 feet. It has no known diseases, and insects cause no great damage. The thick bark provides protection even from fires. Acquiring land upstream from the tall trees was necessary because heavy logging was resulting in flooding and potential damage to the grove. The park has an ambitious program to restore the former logged lands to their natural state. Ambitious because the average tree lives to be over 700 years. The redwoods are more than trees of unsurpassed beauty. They're a living link with history. The uniqueness of Yosemite Valley is not the sole attraction of Yosemite National Park, which covers almost 1,200 square miles of the Sierra Nevada. Outside the valley are vast wild areas of high country wilderness, a land of lakes, small meadows, bubbling streams, and bare glacial carved peaks. The park doesn't close during the winter, although the number of visitors declines. Cross-country skiers and snowshoers can explore the back country. It's more difficult covering the 700 miles of trail within the park, but just as rewarding, for the views in winter can rival those of summer. It was the cold of the long winters during the ice ages which formed the canyon. The glaciers broadened the canyon of the Merced River to form the classical U-shaped valley and rounded the harder rocks to domes. El Capitan, its walls towering 3,600 feet, is said to be the largest block of granite on Earth. Climbers from around the world test their skills on the sheer rock walls. Down these glacial sculpted rocks thunder some of the world's most spectacular waterfalls. Upper Yosemite drops 1,430 feet to a ledge, and then an additional drop of 1,000 feet to the valley floor, making it the highest on the continent. The falls are fullest in the spring. The seeds of the conservation program, which resulted in the park system, were laid at Yosemite. Here, John Muir conducted much of his original research on the effect of glaciers on the landscape. As a result of his efforts, along with others, the area was deeded to the state of California in 1864. A national park surrounding the state park was established in 1890, and eventually in 1916, the two parks were merged. Poets, photographers, and artists have long been attracted to the valley, and they continue to explore its beauty. But for most people, visiting a national park is a chance to discover the ever-changing moods of nature. And at Yosemite, the valley is always changing its appearance, from hour to hour, day to day, and season to season. The foresight of the visionaries who promoted the development of parks is now shared by millions. A commitment to national parks is not an easy commitment. Yet few Americans would change the strict protectionism that has preserved these national treasures that stretch from border to border and coast to coast. Our national parks are truly America the Beautiful. They are wonders to behold and enjoy. America's greatest treasures are its national parks.